Alright, so in my last video, and I'm hitting a few today, by the way, I talked about the idea of me getting back into dating. And that kind of opens up a whole new host of issues and questions. So, me being a Christian, and I am in the Anglican tradition, I'm an Episcopalian, and me being in that tradition, there has been a lot of talk, very much recently, especially with gay marriage being legalized, about what exactly marriage is, what it does, what it's supposed to do, all those different things. So I am going to briefly, I hope, go into what I believe about marriage and maybe make some people mad. I don't know. But so, and then we're going to kind of open things up for maybe a bigger conversation. So in biblical times, marriage wasn't what we have today. Marriage was not two people falling in love, professing their love to each other. Marriage was very much a business transaction. You can look in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, you can see this with Isaac and Rebekah, very plainly, where, you know, it was very much a business transaction. And in ancient Near East culture, they had multiple wives. So, and women at that time, if you were a wife, you were very much considered property. So when I hear people talk about we need to get back to the biblical view of marriage, I want to ask them which one. Are we talking about the sometimes incestuous marriages, the multiple wives, or are we talking more about the New Testament version? Because when we get to the New Testament, Paul basically links marriage to monotheism, the belief in only one God. So he says, you know, and this is another paper, but you're just going to take my word on this one. He basically says, because we only believe in one God, and marriage is a result and is a picture of our, you know, our relationship with God, how things ought to be. So you shouldn't have more than one wife, you know, all this other stuff. Well, as time has gone on, what we have discovered is that a lot of these books that we thought were written by the Apostle Paul may not have been written by the Apostle Paul. And even if they were written by the Apostle Paul, it's also coming to light that the Apostle Paul may have had pretty radically different ideas about things that the apostles actually taught. So that creates a problem within Orthodox Christianity, because now you've got seemingly two different traditions or two different beliefs happening. Now, there is another school that says, of course, that none of this is true, it's all hogwash. I'm not even going to address that because I think it's basically intellectually bankrupt, okay? You have to embrace some sort of intellectual, I'm trying to think of the word for it, progress in this area. If not, it's just anti-common sense to me. I'm not even going to go there. So, with all that being said, marriage, the definition of marriage in Christianity is kind of up for grabs. Now, you have a lot of traditionalist conservative Christians who are kind of wanting to reclaim that definition of marriage, which, like I said, to me is ludicrous, because, you know, which version are you going for? So, and even if that version that you're going for is one man and one woman for life, well, that's a Pauline belief, and that may or may not line up with other beliefs. So it's kind of tricky. And so, for what it's worth, I've thought about these things for a lot, and for a lot of time. And I think this is where I come up with. Let me get a sip of coffee here. This is a big ass cup of coffee. Anyway, so I don't think the issue is marriage. I think the issue, from what I can tell, is monogamy. Basically, it is two people coming together and saying, I want to spend my life with you. So marriage for me is not about, let me say this, relationships now for me are not about standing in front of somebody, having that priest or bishop tell you, this is who you need to be, and this, not that I don't believe marriage is a sacrament, I do, but I think I know we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want to say, we don't want to have marriage without monogamy, and we don't want to have, and some people would say we don't want to have monogamy without marriage. Well, I think monogamy is more important. So, I do believe that when you look at the Bible, at least at this point, and this is subject to change, but I do believe when you look at the Bible at this point, that monogamy is the standard. It's two people together for their entire lives, if they can do that. Now, obviously, I've tried that twice, and it didn't work, marriage-wise at least. And I have been in other relationships besides those before I got married the first time, and got my heart broken severely. So, I'm just saying that's where I stand right now. Now, there is a growing movement within Christianity to redefine sexual ethics. This is a very progressive movement, a little bit on the fringes, but I'm kind of curious to see where it's going. Nadia Bolz-Weber, who was a pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, the ELCA, has since left her position as pastor, and I think now is embracing more of a full-time speaking and writing role, is coming out with a book on sexual ethics that promises to be very controversial, because one of the things that she wants to do is melt down true love rings from days gone by and make a giant vagina out of them, which it sounds a bit ludicrous to me. I'm going to be honest. I love Nadia's work, but this one I'm kind of raising my eyebrow at, going, I don't know, what are you doing? But I trust her background enough to say, all right, let's see what you have to say about this. I'm not saying I'm going to embrace it. I'm not saying I'm going to agree with it, but I trust you enough to hear what you have to say. All right, so I think there is a burgeoning movement in Christianity to redefine sexual ethics. I think that is an awesome thing, because first of all, the conversation is still happening, and that's important. Secondly, we've already established, I believe, that there are many shades to the LGBTQ spectrum. I myself am bisexual, but I lean more toward women. I'm in an awkward place in the spectrum, if you will, but here I am. I don't believe that marriage is for one man and for one woman. I believe that marriage can be with between two men or two women, or non-binary people that don't relate as male or female. Gender is a whole nother discussion. So I think we've dispatched with that finally, but like I said, there is a growing, burgeoning movement within Christianity to redefine sexual ethics. Where does that take us? Does it take us beyond monogamy? Does it take us to a place where a person can be considered polyamorous? Does it take us a place where more than two people can be in a relationship? I have met people that were in triads, and it's very interesting when they say, yeah, there's three of us and we have a very loving, awesome relationship. What do you do with that within the confines of Christianity? Or do you say that is completely, absolutely 100% out of bounds? I think we're continuing to have a conversation, and I think it's a good conversation. So there's more of my thoughts. I've got more coming, y'all. I haven't been able to do these for a while, so bear with me. They're on their way. So let me know your thoughts on that, where you think things are going. See y'all.